marketplaces are here to stay. Merchants should have a multi-channel strategy. They should not be limited to their own sales channel. You have to follow the consumer, go where the consumer is. And for the DTC brands, in my opinion, it really boils down to, two big things, which is one is customer lifetime value, and number two is customer acquisition cost. If you can manage those two and continue growing your business, you have something that is fundamentally strong, something that's here to stay, as opposed to acquiring customers at $200 and the lifetime value of that customer is, 150 or even less, because it's just that business model is simply not going to work.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the eMarketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm super excited to be catching up with Manish Chowdhary, who Manish is also wearing multiple hats at the same time, primarily Pulse Commerce, which is what I've known him for many, many years. And then more recently, for the past 5.5 years, Cahoot. So I'd love to hear the elevator pitch for the two different businesses for people who don't know you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me. Once again, for introduction, my name is Manish Chowdhary. I'm the founder and CEO of Cahoot. I'm also the founder and CEO of Pulse Commerce. Pulse Commerce is the leading mid-market order and inventory management system for brands and retailers in the omni-channel space. So orders come in from a variety of different sources. They need to be managed. Payment needs to be processed. Orders need to be delegated for fulfillment. Inventory needs to be managed. Inventory needs to be purchased. And profitability needs to be analyzed. And all the great stuff that happens in the retailer back office is what Pulse Commerce is about. And Cahoot was commercialized in 2018. It grew from a passion project of mine that I've been working on for a very long time, starting way back in 2001, 2002. It really centers around e-commerce optimization with the focus on delivery and logistics. Happy to dig in. Cahoot is very unique, very special, but I'll let you probe as you feel necessary.
Well, I mean, obviously, 3PL and logistics is a pretty crowded category. But based on me taking a peek at Cahoot, it seems like you had sort of addressed some of the logistics challenges and fulfillment challenges in a different way. So I'd love to hear, what was that catalyst for you? Said, listen, we could do this in a completely different way. We think it's better for certain retailers or DTC brands.
Yeah, great question, Kevin. So let's start from the top. Consumer expectations, right? Consumer, you're running a retail brand yourself, Truth Nutrition, so what the consumers expect, which is 1 day, 2 day shipping. That's no secret, and that's not going away. If anything, consumers are addicted and want that instant delivery experience. And so that brands and retailers have to catch up and provide that experience. So what the data tells us, in order to achieve 2 day guaranteed delivery in the continental US, the 48 states, you need 5 strategic warehouse locations. And when I say 5 strategic, Seattle, Washington is not a strategic location. It's all the way up north, Pacific Northwest, or perhaps even Wisconsin, Madison, or Maine. So that's not where the population lives. So in order to achieve that 2 day guaranteed delivery, you need to have 5 strategic locations. And of course, those 5 strategic locations vary for each brand, depending on where your demographic is, where your customers are. So if you're selling swimsuits, obviously, you'll probably have more customers in Southern California. You'll have more customers in Florida. So accounting for that. But the reality is, most brands and retailers, even the large ones, including multi-billion-dollar companies, do not have 5 strategic warehouse locations. And that is the reason, fundamentally, why they fall short in meeting that Amazon-like experience. And that is such a key I'll take a pause here. I'm happy to keep diving in, but I will keep checking in with you, Kevin, if it's interesting. Should I keep going, or where to stop?
Well, I love when folks invent businesses that solve particular needs, and it sounds like you came up with an innovative way to provide a footprint that could be, provide multiple sort of warehousing locations. Probably what question I would ask if I were wearing my Truth Nutrition hat or a mid-sized DTC retailer is sort of at what level of sales tipping point would it suddenly make sense for me to spin up, to take advantage of Kahoot and say, okay, I would prefer to delight the consumer with faster shipping, but maybe I have a semi-perishable product or whatever. I just can't spread all my SKUs out into all these locations, because then I have to sort of worry about, okay, I run out of inventory at this location, or I run out of inventory at that location, which of course then eliminates that sort of 2-day delighting experience. You can still you ship out of the location that has the stuff, right? But sort of, where's that tipping point? Is there like an annualized sales number where all of a sudden it's like a no-brainer for them to talk to you?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I want to address that. So it really depends upon your SKU, how large is your SKU catalog, and it also depends on what your inventory position is. How much inventory do you have? Because Kahoot, like Amazon, pretty much simplifies the entire process for you, because Amazon theoretically is doing that for even the smallest brand, and is doing it for the Nikes of the world. I'm not sure if Nike is still working with Amazon, but it's an analogy. It's certainly that if Amazon is able to do that for a seller that is just getting started and offer the prime experience, so the solution is within reach for most SMBs. And that is where Kahoot comes in. What is Kahoot? What's so special about Kahoot in the 3PL world? I didn't get a chance to finish the earlier question that you had. What is Kahoot bringing to the table, right? So we established that you need 5 locations for 2-day guaranteed delivery, and you need 10 locations for 1-day guaranteed delivery. So in order to do that, you have 2 options. You have a few options, right? One, you're going to go and build 10 different warehouses, 5 to 10 warehouses, which is such a capital-intensive exercise that is not even achievable by multi-billion-dollar companies. And secondly, why do it? Because you can't predict what the future looks like. You're going to have to sign a 5-year lease minimum. So it really does not make sense. It's sort of like, if you need to file taxes, you're going to start creating offices in all 50 states. That's just not practical or relevant or even cost effective. The second option is you have to now hire 3PLs. So you may have 1 or 2 warehouses of your own. If you do, if not, you have to find these 5 strategic 3PLs in those strategic locations. And let's say you're lucky and each one has their own pricing structure, each one has their own SLA, each one has their own technology requirements. Now you have to figure out, how do you stitch this all together where something does not fall apart? And that's where the problem lies, because 2/3 of the 3PL market in the US are made up of what we call mom and pop operators. And when I say mom and pop, it's not out of disrespect. It's simply they are operating 1 or 2 facilities, which means you may have to go and contract with 3 to 5 different separate 3PL companies in order to make this happen, which is an astronomical task. And then you need to find the technology to glue it together. And then you need to add operations overhead and administrative overhead to keep them accountable, because it's not just enough to spread the inventory and put these things together. Then you need to find your finance and accounting team who is going to reconcile the bills to make sure you're realizing the savings. So it quickly becomes a nightmare. And that is why we have a new breed of solutions, what we call 4PLs or 5PLs, that have come into market, and Kahoot could be classified as one that simplifies that process through a single technology, one neck to choke, one universal contract for rate pricing, simplified pricing. And that is what's very unique to Kahoot. And one more thing, which is about Kahoot, is there are 21,000 3PL companies in the US, but there are about 2 million merchants in the US, and many of them operate their own warehouses. So Kahoot has enabled these merchants, the brands, the retailers that have warehouses of their own to join Kahoot as a fulfillment partner and fulfill orders for others, so they get to monetize their excess capacity. This is something that is very unique to Kahoot because we believe it's sort of like the Airbnb versus the Hiltons, the Marriotts. You are going to have a better experience with Kahoot than anyone else. It may sound unique and different, but we have proven that your SLAs, your experience, your defects are far lower when we are working under Kahoot, who's working with other brands and retailers as opposed to the 3PLs. But we obviously welcome 3PLs into our network as well.
Right. Well, those are some excellent points. And even though Amazon's recently released, well, I don't know if it's that recent, it could be over a year at this point, has recently released their own 3PL option in addition to sort of being part of FBA. I don't think, folks who work with Amazon are interested in giving them any more money. So, and increasing concentration risk. And, I think that you probably have a whole list of bullet points as to why you shouldn't consider Amazon as your 3PL partner, and why Kahoot would be better. But I'll leave it to you whether you want to share those bullet points or not. But I know Amazon's been sort of starting to push their 3PL solution.
Yes, and really it's to be fair and balanced. It's not about Amazon and of course the concentration risk, right? Second, you don't have any predictability, right? You don't know. Amazon can send you an email in 30 days, change its pricing overnight. Amazon is not suitable for wholesale fulfillment, fulfillment to other channels. Amazon does best is fulfilling orders that originate on Amazon. So they have different pricing structure if you're trying to fulfill Shopify orders from Amazon. Amazon, as you know, has tons of challenges with its own warehouses, let alone now opening up additional warehouses. They first expanded very rapidly, then they contracted very rapidly. And now those change in strategies is not what the sellers, the brands and retailers want to know. Right. It's hard enough managing Amazon channel on Amazon that you wish to, put more channels. So there are many, I've got a, laundry list of things that one, you should have two players at the very least. It's like having a backup. Amazon cannot be Amazon's backup. So it just has to be, from a business standpoint, you need to look out for a independent third-party player that does not have a skin in the game in the sense that they're not a seller, they're not a marketplace operator, and also they are your fulfillment partner. Right.
So all excellent points. So I'd love to step back and sort of take a big picture, because you and I have both been around a long time. So we've had a chance to not only watch the evolution of the platforms, and not just Amazon as a platform, but the Googles and Facebooks / Metas of the world and the other social media platforms, the other store platforms. We've watched Shopify go from, a startup to a mega player, right? And so what are some sort of consistent trends that you've seen that that you think are really important for merchants, in particular DTC merchants, to think about if they're sort of wanting to future-proof their business and sort of stay up with what's going on at the moment?
Yeah, that's a great and a very deep question, Kevin. So obviously, the rise of marketplaces. Marketplaces are getting bigger and stronger, and I want to think from the consumer standpoint. Consumers trust marketplaces because it's a competitive environment which requires brands and retailers to compete in order to win the consumer's business. And consumers feel that they have an independent third party who's going to keep both parties honest, which means if there's a problem with the merchant, the marketplace will arbitrate that. So we're seeing a massive adoption of marketplaces from a consumer standpoint. Consumers love it. Consumers want to be there. And also because it's a competitive environment, sellers have to put their best foot forward, meaning they have to put their best pricing, the best selection, the best deal, the best return policy, the best shipping offer, which and also the threshold has to be lower because they're
Right.
competing with other sellers on the same thing. So I expect that, and that is why you've seen the rise of these third-party tools that's enabling even traditional retailers like Macy's and Targets to become marketplaces, because we know that the brands and the retailers are recognizing the need to sort of aggregate demand. I mean, I heard very recently that H&M wanted to become a marketplace and start selling other brands on its website. Nordstrom is doing that. So the lines between a brand, retailer, and marketplaces are slowly blurring. And just like anything else, things are going to get frothy. They're going to expand before they're going to contract again. But also Amazon, as a percentage of e-commerce GMV, is losing some market share. As rising tide lifts all boats, of course, their GMV goes up, but that's because of the transition from offline to online. But there's new marketplaces that are emerging, like TikTok, and the traditional marketplaces or traditional platforms that haven't had shopping in them, like Facebook and others. They see that as a great opportunity to double down and not send that traffic to some other marketplace solution. So I believe that marketplaces are here to stay. Merchants should have a multi-channel strategy. They should not be limited to their own sales channel. You have to follow the consumer, go where the consumer is. And for the DTC brands, in my opinion, it really boils down to two big things, which is one is customer lifetime value, and number two is customer acquisition cost. If you can manage those two and continue growing your business, you have something that is fundamentally strong, something that's here to stay, as opposed to acquiring customers at $200 and the lifetime value of that customer is, 150 or even less, because it's just that business model is simply not going to work.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the fascinating things about the rise of marketplaces and the marketers and brand owners' desire to really understand their CAC and understand their LTV is that obviously if you're like an FBA merchant and you're selling through Walmart, right, it's much more difficult to calculate LTV because you don't own the customer relationship. And so you need to put a bunch of assumptions into your models as you start to try to understand that. Obviously, if they're buying from your Shopify store or your BigCommerce store, your Magento store, then for those customers, you can at least have a pretty good idea of what your LTV is. But the shopping experience obviously is quite different with regards to AOV, because you may have competing products in that shopping basket if the person's on an Amazon or Walmart, versus if they're shopping on your site, you can merchandise and cross-sell your own product, right? So you're more likely to have a higher AOV of your own owned and operated brand. And so there are a bunch of sort of challenges that then requires the marketer face, right? So given the rise of the marketplaces and the fact that the brand needs to meet the consumer where they're at, where they choose to shop, right? So how do you recommend brand owners sort of find that happy medium and reconcile that? I mean, should they try to push the consumer towards, a place where they're sharing the PII, right? Where they can really understand and build the models and sort of say, well, I really prefer my triple W, my domain name. I'd like for the purchases to happen there. Or should they really be almost agnostic as to where the purchase happens?
Yeah, that's again a very deep question. So you have two forces going on, right? You have Amazon now motivating or rewarding brands and retailers to send offline traffic from Google to Amazon, so you get a referral bonus, if you will. That's the Amazon's next big foray. That if the already 68% of shopping searches begin on Amazon, but the market is shifting, right? Even this Chat GPT and AI. Consumer trends and behaviors are changing. So Amazon recognized that, and they're saying, okay, if you can send your Google traffic and if it converts, I'll give you a bounty. So, and then brands and retailers obviously want to own that customer. They want that transaction and that relationship to originate and stay on their own website. So the way I think about this is, what is your product? Is it a consumable or is it a one-time purchase? is it a high consideration item? If it is a discretionary impulse buy, that is something that most consumers are going to gravitate to a marketplace like Amazon. I've got my wallet. I'm just going to check out, and I've got Prime membership. I can buy a toothpick for free and have it delivered tomorrow.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
So I think it is really, there's no one size fits all. You have to really think about, like what you're doing with Truth Nutrition, that is probably a consumable. So you can afford to pay a little bit higher customer acquisition cost as long as you can build a direct relationship with the customer that comes back to your domain name. And that is where the shipping comes in, right? Shipping and fulfillment experience, that you have to achieve parity with Amazon. Otherwise, Amazon's rules dictate that you shouldn't be selling that product for less than Amazon on your website or any other channel. So as a consumer, I've got my Prime membership. Why would I come to your website? So this is really thinking from a consumer standpoint, and then removing those friction points, that if you say, I cannot achieve that 2-day shipping, to me, that 2-day shipping is cost of marketing. It's not cost of logistics, because that's the promise you're making to the customer. That's your shopping experience. It's your customer experience. So the lines are blurring, and I think you need to look at all these channels as customer acquisition channels, and then how do you wish to convert those customers into lifelong customers coming back directly to you, besides bombarding them with your own emails every day, which the consumer is going to unsubscribe from because there's only so many vitamins I can buy in a day.
Right. Absolutely. Those are excellent points. One recent piece of fairly big news in the marketplace category was Overstock's purchase of the Bed Bath & Beyond brand, which is a little bit quirky, right? Because Overstock was everything as a marketplace and continues to be so for the time being. And Bed Bath & Beyond is a little bit more narrow, right? They had stuff obviously in the brick and mortar stores where you're like, well, this has nothing. It's the beyond part, right? Because it didn't really fit in bed and bath. Like even 80% of their SKUs were bed and bath, or home, at least kitchen. And so that's a little bit of an unusual deal. I'd love your perspective on that. Like, do you think that's a good thing? Does it sort of allow them to take a brand and move it away from this sort of clearance eBay style mindset that Overstock had become associated with early on? Or are they just essentially buying a brand that was synonymous with discounting as well, right? Because certainly if you lived in the Northeast and had a Bed Bath & Beyond near you, most families that I knew, and I include my own in that, is we wouldn't go to the Bed Bath & Beyond unless we had the coupon, right? I mean, it was basically like, no coupon, I'm not going.
The 20% coupon, the ever-present 20% off.
Exactly.
So I might be a little opinionated here and controversial.
That's good. I like that.
Two tired brands don't make a brand new refresh category.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's the way Overstock was very popular back in the day, maybe 15 years ago, 10 years ago. It sort of lost its charm along the way. It's when Amazon started expanding, or other marketplaces started expanding to the home category, home decor, which used to be one of the big categories for Overstock, and then Wayfair came and ate their lunch along the way, and now they're all struggling a little bit. And Bed Bath & Beyond, as you said, their strength was their stores network, which I think more than half of them have been shut down, or they will be shut down. So I don't know how this will play out, but it reminds me of a startup like a La Toad that acquired Lord & Taylor, if you remember, a few years ago. And we don't hear of it, neither one of them.
Right.
So in my opinion, the brand name itself may be recognizable to some, perhaps the older generation, older customers, but without the store footprint, I'm unsure how this is really going to help, or if this is going to revive, or it is actually going to become a bit of a drag on both of them. So remains to be seen, but I'm not super duper bullish on this.
Yeah, well, it will be fascinating to watch, because they sort of, for a certain population, they were strong brands at one point, right? And so Perhaps they have an opportunity. Perhaps they're thinking of something that you and I are missing, right? And I certainly hope so, because it would be nice to see them both succeed. There's room for plenty of people in the marketplace. When it comes to brands like Truth Nutrition, or probably bigger ones because we're still pretty small, and deciding, which of the marketplaces do we delve into, right? Is there any strategic advice you give to folks as they sort of think that through? And it seems like you're empowering them to potentially go deeper, right, than they might otherwise be able to go.
That's right. Again, now there are tool sets that are available that makes it super easy to syndicate your catalog, right? If you have 20, 30 SKUs, you could use a listing syndication service, and you can have your presence in many places at near negligible cost and perhaps negligible overhead, if you will. However, just having a presence is the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
Is owning that channel is where you really need to double down. We're certainly seeing that Walmart marketplace is growing. Walmart is obviously putting up a lot of push to grow its marketplace, and they are certainly becoming a choice for sellers to go and experiment after Amazon. Amazon is extremely competitive. Of course, it has the eyeballs, it has the traffic, it has the customers, but do not ignore. And then obviously trying out these new opportunities. For example, whether it's TikTok, yes, you need to allocate perhaps. I'd use that 20% of your time, the Google model, on experimentation and working on trying new things, because where the barrier to entry is low right now, TikTok is giving away the house. There are no listing fees, no commission, all that. You can probably get in early if you can get a contact there who can promote your brand to get in front of new people. So you don't have to compete in the red ocean and the jungle. So you have to kind of balance between tried and proven, and then some of these emerging brands where the competition might be low. So, I would say keep experimenting, use some tools, get your presence out there, because at the very least you'll be present in those channels, but then focus on a few and own those few.
Yeah, that's absolutely great advice. I come from SEO primarily, right? So 96, when I started, did it. We were in SEO tech, then we got into SEO services, and continues to be a big piece of what we do for our clients. And one of the things that some of our clients didn't initially think of strategically was the idea that, in particular, if they're a mid-size domain or they're mid-size organization or brand, that the SEO power of the marketplaces exceeds their SEO power, right? And so part of the whole syndication of the catalog perspective is the idea that each of those syndication points gives you another bite at the apple. But what we typically try to recommend for folks is that they tweak the content a little bit, right, to avoid duplicate content penalties. And there's a variety of ways that you can do that. I don't know if you have found that strategy works, in your experience as well, to try to either use a combination of review content or a combination of other content to differentiate the same SKU product as you put it up in Walmart, as it's up in Amazon, as FBA, as you perhaps put it on Overstock, and maybe it's on eBay, and then it's on TikTok.
Oh, great point, Kevin. You and I both go back to the early days of SEO. The fundamentals haven't changed. It's the same 10 blue links, so now there's the infinite scrolling, and filled with sponsored ads. I mean, it used to be 2 or 3 back in the day. So I think you're 100% right. The SEO power of these platforms far exceed that of an individual brand, and at the very least, you got to use that from an SEO perspective, just the brand awareness, visibility, because visibility drives customer awareness, which drives interest, which drives your purchase intent, and then conversion. So, and to tweaking it so that you don't end up with duplicate penalties, content penalties. But also many of these marketplaces like Google, as platforms have a shopping feed. So, rich content attribution plays a huge role, because marketplaces have a responsibility to provide a better user experience for their consumer. And they cannot do that without rich markup, rich data. And so it is 100%, it is worth investing in creating those, even if there are 50 different attributes, you will, like in your case, nutrition, nutrition facts, those are little things, but they play a role, and they help you achieve higher search rankings within the marketplace, which in turn will also show up on Google and other search engines. 100% agreed that even if it is for SEO, get out there, invest the time in data, good, rich data, and I think it will pay dividends.
Absolutely. Well, this is the year of AI, right? And that seems to be a double-edged sword from a variety of perspectives. From the fact that AIs can assist in generating content, assist in creating unique content. You obviously have to be aware of AI hallucinations, which my wife says it's incorrectly labeled as hallucinations. It's more delusions, because it's deluded in thinking that it's accurate. But in any case, where do you think that's going from the perspective of, improving the consumer experience, right? So does AI enhance content potentially improve the consumer experience? What are the pros and cons of that? Do you have any opinion on how that's going to change the marketplaces, how it's going to change the consumer experience, et cetera?
Yeah, that's AI is something that everybody is trying to figure out. I don't think we figured it out, but it's one of those massive changes, from Web 1.0 to Web 2.0, then to mobile, and now we're entering the age of AI. So perhaps I would classify this as the biggest revolution since the launch of the iPhone, right? Which revolutionized mobile. So ChatGPT, that is the catalyst that has basically put everybody in the arms race. So just like any technology, you will have the period of enchantment and then a period of delusion, if you will. This is I'm using the Gartner terminology. So everybody is super excited, and then they recognize, like the metaverse, hey, we are going to build a metaverse. Then we realize that the fundamental building blocks are not there, and therefore it's going to take a little bit longer. But it's going to come around. Mobile did not die with Palm Pilot, did not die with BlackBerry. It just needed it just needed to be reincarnated in a new form. So AI is 100% here to stay. It is just going to get better and smarter over time. So I think, you can take one of two approaches. If you're on the bleeding edge, you want to go out and try to make things happen, or you can give yourself some time, wait and watch. Just like mobile, it's not about the first mover advantage, in my opinion. Yes, it may give you some benefit, but if the return is not there, if you have limited time, limited resources, you might just be chasing something that there may not be enough return, and you will be able to adapt. It's sort of like mobile. You can adapt. So the advice that I have is really find terrific use case. If there is no use case, then just chasing AI is just chasing something for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. And you cannot, if the customer do not realize the benefit of what you're doing, then in my opinion, you need to slow down. You need to think a bit harder to figure this out. So from a consumer perspective, 100%, whether it is curation of content, what do I want to see? Personalization, hey, I've got all these offers. I get all these emails. So I can imagine a tool, perhaps like I get, say, 50 newsletters from different retailers in a week, aggregate them into one single offer for me so that it reduces the cognitive load, because yes, that is what I want to see. I want to see it my way. And that is the power of AI, that AI allows people to morph content in a way that best suits them. And the power now is with everyone, as opposed to the brand. Now I have to sift through 50 different emails, and I'm speaking just purely out of imagination. I don't know if this exists, but I think it may be a good idea.
Yep, absolutely. What's going to be fascinating, and I'm looking forward to watching, is obviously now with some of the newer open source LLMs and proprietary LLMs that are out there, folks with really good data sets can deploy them. Particularly the vector databases, I think, are fascinating because they're really good at understanding which things are which or like which other things from a merchandising perspective, from a product perspective. So I sort of see that manifesting itself as sort of a new form of SEO, like intra-marketplace SEO, like within Amazon or within Walmart, because Walmart is interested in delighting the customer. And if something's out of stock, they want to make the best possible recommendation or provide alternatives or cross-sells and upsells. And I have a feeling like that's going to get a lot better. It's already there, and some of the ML, machine learning language, is already doing that now with regards to, in particular, upsell and cross-sell opportunities. I do feel like there's going to probably be a noticeable improvement in that just due to what vector databases can do. I haven't really seen it in action. I've seen some stuff demoed at conferences like, the Grow conference and other conferences that are for use within the Shopify's and the Magentos of the world for merchants. But that's going to be really interesting. And I think it sort of lends itself to like an SEO mindset, right? Because you want to end up being recommended in the broad open web. If somebody asks Bard or ChatGPT, what are the top 10 vegan pre-workouts, you'd like to be on that list, right? But at the same time, if somebody's on Amazon and does a search, I have a feeling that their A9 search is going to improve and become much more vectorized and much more AI driven. So I don't know if you agree with that sort of prediction, I guess.
I think you're definitely onto. I agree. And just yesterday, I think I read or I heard Microsoft just launched a suite of products because, as you may know, that the use of some of these AI tools is banned in most large enterprise because they are concerned about the leak of data and the privacy. You don't want your personal data going into a training data set and now all of a sudden everything is out in the open. So Microsoft is making some big waves, and I think they've just announced some new products which keeps your data private, which is also going to really get the enterprises behind this. And Kevin, as you know, most people shop on Mondays and they shop from work. Or they shop from their work computers. This is something that was fascinating to me in the early days, that the personal shopping happens between the hours of 9 and 5, and it happens from the office computer.
Yeah, the lunchtime spike was gigantic. We would be able to watch when we were running WeCare, we were able to watch the lunchtime spike move from the East Coast to the West Coast in our analytics. It was fascinating.
That's right. So the reason bringing this up is because when Microsoft and other enterprises, and I'm sure Google is in massive race to beat Microsoft, so it won't be long before Google is going to announce the same thing. So I think the speed of change is just mind-boggling, and this thing is moving, at a record pace. I mean, how Threads, Meta Threads, went from 0 to 100 million users in 5 days. I mean, we have global distribution at a scale that's unimaginable. So things are moving very, very fast.
Right. So what has you excited about any new marketplaces have you excited, or sort of new platforms that are coming out that have you excited for the next year?
Yes, I think TikTok was the one that has a lot of eyeballs. So if you have a great product that is in the consumer space, like a health, beauty, that relies on influencer marketing, I think it is totally worth experimenting. They're doing some amazing offers right now. So even yourself, you might want to check it out.
I will, absolutely.
Target Plus seemed to be gaining ground. Hear a lot about Target Plus. It's a closed marketplace. You need to get approved by Target in order to appear there. We're seeing some interest in Macy's. So there's a lot of these new genre of marketplaces that are really, if you're in the fashion and apparel, which is in the resale category, you have Poshmark that's taking a lot of business away from eBay. That's in the apparel space. And there's a lot of niche players that have come in. And that's the one big problem that Shopify has, because they don't have the traffic. And That's a big problem compared to Amazon. So those are some marketplaces I would check out.
Absolutely. Well, that's it's going to be exciting this next year between the AI and the new marketplaces and all the new ad formats that are coming out. It's certainly going to be fascinating. It's been a pleasure catching up with you, Manish. We shouldn't wait so long the next time, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.